Hello, everyone. This is Rick, and welcome to Astral Club. This is my interview with a demon. Before we get into it, real quick, just want to mention Patreon. If you'd like to support the work of Astral Club and spreading information about astral projection, you can do so. If you're a member of Astral Club's Patreon army, you get no commercial videos in advance on Sunday. And of course, there's an email where you can share your experiences with me and ask any questions. The new patron for this week is Anita, Aneta Zygmundova. And she is an astral master. And I want to extend my thanks for the support. Next up, private lessons. If you'd like to learn to astral project, I'd be glad to help you out. You'll find a email in the description, along with the link to Patreon in the description as well, if you're interested. Let's get started. First of all, happy Halloween to everyone. Some of you who've been around for a long time know that traditionally I've been doing some of my scarier experiences around Halloween because 'tis the season, right? I think you'll find this one interesting as I've never talked about it before now because I always think about what's the impact of this type of experience and how should I share it? What's the best way to share it? Well, perhaps the best way to share it is for a Halloween episode. If you recall, I detailed my experience as helping out as an assistant in an exorcism of a young boy back when I was a senior in high school. After that experience, I became very interested in the topic of demons and what have you. So I did a lot of study over a period of years. And eventually, I prepared myself through a variety of methods, fasting being one of them. I'm going to be intentionally vague in a couple of areas because I don't want any of the braver or perhaps foolhardier of my Astral Club members to decide to pursue something like this without all of the preparation that really is necessary. And even after all this preparation, there's a very real danger involved. So I'm going to be vague in some areas. My basic idea is if you're able to handle something like this, you'll be able to figure out what's necessary and how to get there. Okay, so I projected and I used a particular method that I had been working on for quite some time to get to what you might call a sub-hellish type plane. When I arrived there, there was a pervasive darkness, and it wasn't just a darkness of vision, it was a darkness in every sense of the word. It just felt like it was oppressive. It wasn't just dark, it was the utter absence of light, if that makes any sense. There was, though, some chaotically changing patterns in the darkness. You could tell the darkness wasn't uniform, that it was moving, almost alive. I felt more alone and abandoned than the time I lost my parents in a department store during the holiday season when I was a small child. I felt creeping deep tendrils of fear reaching out for me, trying to access my mind, but they were being repelled because of the shield that I was employing. At that point, I decided I could either retreat or request an audience with a creature which we might call a demon. I think they're infinitely more complex than that, but that's the word we tend to use, so let's stick with it. Who am I to try to recreate something like that? So I requested an entity to talk to, And it was a while, but eventually one appeared. He looked like an ancient old man with pale skin sagging off his bones. His head was very odd. He was bald and it was shaped like an inverted pear. Uh, he had these deep, empty eye sockets that just, if you looked into them, you would be too easy for you to fall into some sort of deep hypnotic trance. Something that I did not want to do in this particular time and place. He was crouching expectantly, looking at me from about 10 feet or 3 meters away from my astral self. I decided now was the time for introductions. So I said, and of course I sent this telepathically. I said, "My name is," and he cut me off. He said, "We know who you are, Richard. You are known to us." And that was a simple statement, but it sent a heck of a chill down my spine because why would I be known? So I said, "Hey, how do you know me?" He responded, "We know you." Well, I said then, trying to recover myself, when you're in the cage of a predator, you don't want to show fear. So I tried to, play it off as best I could. I said, "Well, you have me at a disadvantage. Who are you?" He looked at me for a while and he said, "You may call me Unum." I thought, I responded because immediately a thought came to me. I said, "I thought entities like yourself didn't like to give their names and that it gives away some of your power." I mean, I thought I'd kind of tricked him a little bit. He looked at me with those empty, freaky sockets and said, "You have no power over us in this place." A bigger chill went down my spine. I think it's a great thing that when you astral project, you don't have a physical bladder because it would be something you'd have to manage when you're exposed to this type of situation. Well, I figured let's butter them up a little bit because entities like these can respond to a certain amount of flattery. In other words, you get more with honey than you do with vinegar, right? Uh, and I just want to mention too, just as a disclaimer, that I'm reporting to the best of my recollection what the responses were here. But keep in mind, these creatures mix in lies with truth. So, whatever I relate to you here about his answers to my question, put a asterisk next to it. Take it with a grain of salt, because these creatures will lie if it's to their advantage. So I said, "Look, I know beings like yourself have much knowledge. May I ask you some questions?" He said, "Ask. We shall answer as we see fit." So I responded, "You say we. I only see you here." He responded, the demon, "We are many and one." So I asked, "Well, how many are you?" At this, there was this raspy laugh that just communicated enormous amounts of disdain for this question. He said, "You humans, always you count in thousands, millions, billions, trillions. We are more than the stars in the universe, yet we are all connected, all united in mind and will. We are all one." Okay, I figured. Well, I asked, "What is your joint purpose then?" It thought for a while. And make sure you take this one with a grain of salt. But the answer was, we provide balance. So I asked, what do you mean by balance? He responded, the universe is choking with beings filled with their disparate thoughts and emotions. We bring order to those allied with us, uniting them under one will. I ask, are there many intelligent, self aware beings in the universe? I mean, this is a question I've always wondered about. I think many people on Earth wonder, are we alone? Are there others out there? His response was, there are many millions of civilizations by your count, scattered throughout time and space. So I ask, have you been to other worlds? Keep in mind, this was in my 20s, fairly early in my career. So my travels at that point had pretty much been confined, other than a couple odd trips, like the one time I was outside of our galaxy looking in. Had been to areas in our own basic star group. So I hadn't had some of the experiences that I've been able to detail with you, because obviously they hadn't happened as of yet. So I said, have you been to other worlds? He responded, yes, but we are assigned here, and others are sent elsewhere to establish balance there. I said, look, forgive me, but your answers are very non-specific. His answer was very quick. He said, we answer as simply as your human level of intelligence can comprehend using this primitive telepathy. To be more thorough, we would need to send you the rotes, as Robert Monroe wrote. Wrote, as in the rotes is R-O-T-E-S. Monroe, of course, wrote W-R-O-T-E about these things. At any rate, if you recall from Monroe's books, when he wanted to gain knowledge on the astral plane from other individuals, they would give him in essence, a packet of astral information, which when you ran it, he termed it a rote. Essentially, what you're getting when this happens is you're feeling the experience that is being shared with you as if you were the one experiencing it. Think of it as the world's most advanced gaming levels of virtual reality, where you're not just listening to someone create a fantastic and detailed picture of an experience, but you are the person feeling and sharing in that experience as if you were the first person of that particular story. So after he said these last words, that he would need to send me rotes in order to answer my question more specifically, I was of course tempted to then logically say, well, okay, send me that rote so I can get better information. But I came here with a hefty suspicion of these creatures, and it's highly necessary. This one seems to be very cooperative with me, but that doesn't mean they aren't looking for an opening. When you're dealing with creatures like this, no matter how they look, whether they look pretty or whether they look ugly, they have an agenda, and they will use trickery. They are predators. They are looking for weakness. As I was fairly impervious. But if I willingly, through an act of free will, lowered my shield, then I would be completely open to his influences. And that could go very badly for me, or indeed any human who made that mistake. So at that point in time, though, I just had this feeling that I was being tempted in a way that I should avoid, even though I couldn't quite at this point put my finger on what was wrong with this process. So I just deferred. I said, well, perhaps I'll ask you more about that topic later. I just want to switch gears a little bit. Can you tell me about what we humans term possession? That's a very interesting topic for me as well. As I said, I was an assistant at a exorcism for a young boy. And so it became very interesting to me. And I read everything that I could find that was available. But of course, you don't get it normally from the other side, do you? Usually, when you're reading about possession, you're getting it from the human end, not from the demonic end. So I was interested in how he might spin something like this. He replied, some humans request our assistance. We aid them by integrating ourselves into their consciousness. In that simple sentence, there was a heck of a concept there that was extremely concerning to me, and I think rightfully so. So I then asked, do people have to give you express permission for possession? The demon answered, a little unexpectedly, but listen to the whole answer. He said, usually yes. However, there are some who are promised to us by those who were charged to care for them when they were young. Such a vicarious gifting opens a pathway for us to merge with humans so compromised. That young boy that was the subject of the so-called exorcism that you assisted with had been promised to us by his bruja grandmother. Bruja, of course, is the Spanish term for witch. I said, okay, but why do you possess humans? He responded, we are invited, we come, and help. It allows us to escape our plane for a time and experience the pleasures and pains of the physical world. So they don't like their home plane. And if they get a chance to get away and be in our physical plane for a period of time, apparently you don't have to twist their scabrous arms to get them to do that. I then asked, I was trying to get at free will here as much as possible, if such a thing existed in their world. I said, can you choose whether or not to come when asked? The demon said, there is no choice. We are commanded by the wisest of us to go where we are bidden. Okay. I said, can you tell me all about the wise one, his words, of course, who commands you? He responded, we can only show you there are no words in your mind sufficient to the task. He tried to play that off as just a simple statement. But once again, now I really felt a trap here, because this is now the second time he's offering to communicate with me in a more complete method, one that would require me to open myself up, an act of trust. I had a lot of feelings towards this entity at that point in time. Of course, fear being one of them, curiosity being another. But I wasn't, thankfully, that stupid. Not after all my studies. And I certainly did not trust this being. And anyone who trusts beings like that is a fool. There was no way I was going to give in to this particular trap. I said, I withdraw the question. How old are you? He responded, "We have always been here. We came into being with this universe." Okay. "Will you ever die?" I inquired. He responded, "Nothing dies. Death is the ultimate illusion suffered by humans and other life forms." I actually said, "Ouch." I'll try not to take that personally. He then followed up, "Present company accepted, of course." Now, that statement actually made me feel worse. I was comfortable with this thing insulting me, but this insincere flattery, that coming from this type of a sinister creature, that actually made me feel worse. I preferred the insults to compliments from an individual like this who must have an agenda. They always have an agenda. So I said, "What do you think of astral projectors?" Figure it's a good question to ask. Uh, he responded, "We see them mostly as harmless tourists. A few make an annoyance of themselves." And he looked at me, once again, with those hollow eye holes, very pointedly. I, you know, I tend to joke a little bit whenever I'm feeling stressed. I said, "Well, I hope you're not referring to me. I don't certainly mean to be an annoyance." He came right back at me. He said, "Your intentions are irrelevant. You have made yourself known to us and have been a minor thorn in our side. See to it that you don't become a larger problem that needs to be addressed." Well, that was a direct threat. Uh, I could have let it go, but I said, "Well, what have I done to antagonize you?" And the demon responded, "You have interfered with souls that would have fallen to us. Such actions made you known to us." "I see," I said. "Well, I, like you, go where I'm needed." I know that was a little, once again, me kind of overcompensating with a little passive aggressivism there, a little bit of my satirical wit, trying to play off my true state of feeling and being at that point. Certainly was starting to feel even more stressed, fearful. Uh, I said, trying to get onto another topic here. I didn't like where this was going. I said, "Can you tell me about the future of humanity?" He responded, "There are many paths for humanity." And I can't say it like he did. He said it dripping with uh, hatred. But more than that, he said humanity like you and I might refer to a warren of disgusting insects. It was with that kind of uh, disdain, once again, for that particular subject. He said, "We are only concerned with maintaining the current balance. Humans, if unchecked, could achieve heights of evolution that are mostly hidden from our sight, but worrisome." I replied, "I see," and just kind of try to digest that statement. There was a lot there to unpack. But I think he was running out of patience, and I think he felt that he wasn't making any inroads into my protective shield. So he said, "Go now. I tire of these inane questions." Well, not being one, I've been trained as a child that would be a good guest and not to overstay your welcome. So I quickly thanked him and returned to my body through a circuitous route, bouncing from place to place, time to time, just to make sure, to be on the safe side, that I wasn't followed. and then I returned to my body. And that was my interview with a demon. I hope you found it interesting, perhaps some points enlightening. At any rate, if you liked it, please hit the like button, share it with those of like minds, subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure you include your questions or comments. I'd very much like your feedback and what you think about some of those answers. And do you think he was telling the truth? Do you think he was lying? Somewhere in between. I'd be very interested in what you think. And have yourself a great spooky Halloween or any kind of Halloween you want. And as always, I will see you as Rick on the astral plane.